Rainfall going back to June 19th through today, seeing some of those brighter reds and even some of those lighter shades and even into the purples up toward the north. These are the areas undergoing that devastating flooding currently. You heard us talk about Dannenbrog earlier, but northwest portions of Iowa, Sioux Falls area too, you'll see that estimated rainfall falling in and around the 10 to 15 inch rain, and really a lot of this fell over about a 3 days time frame. But I want to talk about this just because of where all these rivers kind of lie and how they feed into the Missouri River. We are expecting some impacts here closer to home. In fact, these are all the flood alerts currently active through portions of Iowa, all the way up toward Minnesota, portions of South Dakota. You see that aerial flooding, and then each of these flood alerts kind of tied to portions of rivers that again feed into the Missouri River. So just about all the Missouri River along eastern portions of Nebraska going to be impacted here over this next week. In fact, minor to moderate flooding is expected this week. Impacts, especially from Nebraska City down towards Rulo, could last into early July. And really, these flood stages could compete with 2019 levels in terms of what we're seeing in terms of those water levels really rising in terms of the forecast throughout this week. So hydrologists certainly take all this into account. Again, looking at how much rain really fell up to the north and how that's going to feed into the Missouri River in the days to come. Now, we know it's been fairly dry here in Lincoln. We have had some persistent rains, but it hasn't come all at once, thankfully. So we're not dealing with a lot of those problems here at home. Beautiful look at the sunrise at ABC Seamless Camera at North 48th and Cornhusker Highway. There are some small chances to see some rain here at home, but I think those are going to be fairly limited, and I'll talk about why that is. Really heat playing into that, and it's just a hot day in terms of this forecast. Fairly nice out there too right now, though. 66 degrees right now in York. That's certainly going to sound nice when you're thinking about what we're going to see towards this afternoon. Yeah, triple-digit heat expected for a lot of us for the first time this year. In fact, Lincoln's hottest temperature so far has only been 94 degrees. So we're expected to surpass that by several degrees thanks to some southwest winds and a large upper level ridge kind of coming into place over the upper Midwest. That's going to fuel a lot of those warmer temperatures into our area. In fact, factoring in the humidity, it could feel like 110, especially in and around Lincoln, areas of Omaha. Something to keep in mind if you're thinking about College World Series later on, as this heat is expected to persist for much of the afternoon and evening hours. That's why the heat advisory will go into effect by 1 o'clock later this afternoon. Heat index values could be up to 110, as we were just looking at, especially Lincoln, Omaha is where we're thinking, but several counties through eastern, central, south central, and southwestern Nebraska, and even a few counties on the Panhandle will be under that heat advisory for much of the afternoon, evening. Certainly a day to move those activities to the morning hours if you can, as much of the heat and oppressive heat lasts through much of the evening, even after you get off work. Thinking about that too. Just a few clouds out there, a few more scattered thunderstorms ongoing in portions of western Iowa, but you can see how limited some of that coverage is, and really thinking that's going to be what happens throughout later today too. Maybe a few storms popping in southwest Nebraska here this evening. We'll be watching for a couple storms, I think, to pop in eastern Nebraska too, but just limited in coverage because there will be a stout cap because of the warm air still kind of hovering aloft too, kind of limiting the potential of these storms to really grow, organize for very long. But if they do, if they pop nearby, damaging winds will be the primary threat and should move on out of here as we go into early Tuesday. So there is a slight level 2 out of 5 risk. That does include Lincoln, Omaha, up towards Columbus for the evening hours. Something to keep in mind, especially again with the College World Series, if a storm can pop nearby, maybe produce some lightning, a little bit of delay, but I don't think it'll last very long. And a similar thing may play out for tomorrow too, just in terms of still having a lot of warm air aloft and just kind of limiting some of the storm potential. That's why we just have some small chances to start out this week. Still hot on Tuesday too. I think we could still see heat index values around 107 here in Lincoln. So I believe another heat advisory will be in effect for much of tomorrow afternoon as well, before we finally see some relief by the middle of this week.
I think that 89 is going to feel amazing on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's important that this is short-lived. You just got to get through a couple of days, and then we'll be better by the middle of this week.
It's summer. We've got to deal with a few of these days. All right, thank you, Jessica.